This week, we dive into the cutting-edge world of cultured meat and its rapidly growing presence in Asia. With recent approvals by regulatory bodies like the Singapore FDA, cultured meat is poised to revolutionize the food industry by offering sustainable and ethical alternatives to traditional livestock production. We'll explore how this innovative technology is being embraced by manufacturers across Asia, the science behind growing meat from cells, and the potential environmental benefits of reducing our reliance on conventional meat sources. We're here with Faisal Mansor, country lead Malaysia from ProVeg International, discussing the challenges of scaling production, consumer acceptance, and the future impact on Asia's food landscape. I think I'm the one with the customer acceptance, that's me. But before that, how did you personally get involved in this organization? Because I know you from another life, Faisal.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Frida, and thank you for having me here. And so, yeah, I think it started when my son was going through some medical issues, a lot of skin problems, skin allergies, and so forth. So one thing led to another, a lot of tests and examinations by doctors, various hospitals. And we found that a lot of it was attributed to the foods that he was eating. So a lot of seafood, a lot of dairy and stuff like that. And so we came to a conclusion we needed to take it off his diet. And basically what we were left with was kind of like a vegan diet. So we were non-vegans at the time.
Right.
So it was very new territory for us as well. So my wife said, okay, rather than he goes himself, why don't we all do it together to support him and all that. He was only like 3-4 years old at that time.
And now he's?
Now he's 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eczema disappeared?
No visit to the doctor ever since, except when he fractured his arm during a taekwondo incident. But apart from that, yes.
That's not attributed to food.
Yes.
Okay, now, so ProVeg International's ambitions is to transform the global food system by replacing 50% of animal products with plant-based and cultivated foods by 2040. How does it plan to do that?
Okay. Yes, it is a very challenging task. I think we all started with just a goal and an aspiration, and I think it's a concerted effort. I think if you see the movement that's been going on in Europe, especially, if you had a chance to go to Berlin, I think I had the privilege of doing so the last couple of years, and I was very surprised seeing everywhere, every restaurant or every other restaurant at least would have a proper vegetarian, vegan options on their menu. This included the Turkish Arabs who had restaurants. They also had vegan options.
And this is your Turkish Arabs with your meat.
Yes, they were doing the shawarma, the kebabs and all that, but they also had the vegan shawarma and all that. So it was very interesting, very eye-opening for me. And then, I think what ProVeg is trying to do is trying to make it a solid movement and cutting across the board, especially to influence the stakeholders and to look into how we can get industries to make the shift and also to help people to have the diversified options that they so desire or unknowingly desire. So
I think your idea is not that people will be vegetarians or vegans, but to have more vegetables.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Okay, so how do corporations get involved? ProVeg,
So how I think for if you mean the food industry
or the movement,
the movement itself, So I think for corporations, what they can help to do at the start is to understand that sustainability has a lot of facets to it, and I think one thing that I see is that a lot of people often just focus on the renewable energies and all that, but they forgot all the other stuff. I'm not sure intentionally or not, but hopefully they can understand that there's a lot of things that on an individual level, they can also inculcate and make it a culture among the employees and the corporates as well. So one of the aspects is the food, because it's something that we do every day, consciously or not, and it's something that we can tweak very easily and can have an effect to the planet. Of course, I think at the end of the day, it may not change the Malaysian report card, but at the global level, it does make a change, and especially since we're globally feeling the effects, right? The climate change, the global warming, the floods, the trees falling down and stuff like that, the heat definitely and all that. So, it can start with an individual change that we can do on a personal level on a daily basis. So,
and Malaysia, well, I think we will move in that direction sooner or later, right? Okay, what are the challenges here in Malaysia or in Asia, right? to come on board on this journey?
I think now one of the key things that I see at the moment is just awareness of this issue.
Still.
I think people have now started to acknowledge the food waste issue, which is a good
Yes.
thing. But unfortunately, in the food equation, it's a smaller part of it.
Right.
Whereas the source of the food itself is most of the time not looked into.
Okay.
So that's the part that we need to create more awareness on,
Right.
and to get people to understand that the kind of foods, the type of foods that we eat does play a big difference
Right.
in the global resource.
Yes.
Yes, it may not affect or impact Malaysia specifically, but it would impact other parts of the planet.
Right.
And that still creates the global effect of the
Right.
climate change and all that.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one part, and the other part, of course, is the environment how the Malaysian environment is to make it more conducive to that transition. So, what it may be the policies, maybe the kind of availability of it and all that. So that also plays a role in it.
I think the pandemic has made people realize that we don't live in silo. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
This has an impact on a global scale. You know, one person makes a change here, the butterfly effect, right?
Yes,
Something
exactly.
will happen,
Yeah.
right? So I know one of the things that you all have is the Food Innovation Challenge.
Yes.
What's that about?
Okay, so the Food Innovation Challenge was an idea that we wanted to get students, especially in the university level, to kind of like to get their brains cooking into creative ways of creating foods. Maybe your normal traditional Asian cuisines and make it plant-based fully.
Right.
So rather than having the beef or the chicken or the seafood, find other ingredients that can mimic or have the same kind of feel or texture and effect
Right.
that can deliver the same results. So the idea is for them to create an idea, and all they need to do is just to submit ideas. They don't
Right.
even need to cook it. But
Okay.
of course, if they try it out themselves
okay.
and do that, then they have a better chance at it.
This
But
is an ongoing challenge.
Yes, and it is all across Asia.
Right.
And we invite all the university students to get involved. And we have been able to partner with big brands and big food companies to also be on board. Because at the end of the day, these ideas are like R&D kind
Right,
of thing,
right.
And some of them actually recruit some of these students, or the winners even in the past have been involved and they became their staff in the
Do you
end.
remember anything? Like if it's not Malaysia, but do you know anyone who's like, okay, take an idea from a student?
Yeah, so I think CP Foods in Thailand, I believe, they have used the idea by one of the winners last year, and they incorporated, and they have, I think they've started to produce the product in the Thailand and starting to go across the region. So,
I'm just thinking in Thailand must be tom yum, tom yum equivalent, then here will be nasi lemak, nasi lemak without the rendang. Okay, sorry. Now, you also have an international fast food ranking.
Yes.
Yeah. So what does that measure?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, like fast food is now, I guess, in Malaysia also, it's so ingrained in our culture. I mean, back in the days when I was growing up, it
It's
was
a
like a
luxury.
very luxurious thing. But
Yeah.
nowadays, it's like if you don't go
2-3 times a week.
it's like you're weird, right?
Yeah.
So so fast food is so ingrained in the culture. So it is a big part of the food industry, and we acknowledge that. And so we want them to, because they play a big role in influencing the communities, right? And so if they make a change, then the community kind of learns why and try to change and adopt as well, right? So we want these big chains and fast food organizations to also do the same. And I think that's what we wanted to measure. And so because, as I mentioned, one of the challenges for this movement is actually the availability of the foods and for it to be more available and in different areas, right? So we want it to be on pizzas, we want it to be on the burgers, we want it to be on the fried chicken even, the nuggets and stuff like that, right? So what this ranking was designed to do was to be able to see where's the standing at the moment and to encourage these organizations to maybe look into their menu and making these options more available, and it helps to contribute to its
so everybody can look and see from the ranking who's leading in terms of the fast food chains, right?
You want to guess who
currently
won? Okay, based on this report in 2023 across 9 countries, And I believe you only looked at 6 main food chains, 5 or 6 of them, and Burger King came on top.
Ah,
All right, so if you go to Europe, a lot of these Burger King places would have plant-based options. They have the
Right.
burgers, they have the oblongs, chicken, beef, whatever. All right, but surprisingly, I think, or non-surprisingly, Subway is second,
Right.
and then followed by the rest. But yeah,
Okay.
so it is something
Ah,
that can be done,
okay.
can be incorporated, and it's a mix of having it available and then educating and creating that awareness for people
Right.
to try to.
And then after that, hopefully other fast food chains will say, oh, I want to get on that ranking as
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
And hopefully that will get
Exactly.
people
Yeah.
motivated, right?
Yeah.
So what is cellular agriculture and how is that a better alternative to just eating vegetables, right? And is that a production issue?
Okay. Great. So I believe you mentioned it just a bit earlier, where cellular agriculture is basically cultivating or creating meat from the lab.
Okay.
All right. So it is not because you got to understand the meat industry nowadays is quite artificial, if you ask me. Right. So because it's not like natural childbearing meat.
Right.
This is all man-made production
Right.
in a facility. Of
Right.
course, they are living beings
Right.
in the factory farms and all that. But we have husbandry, we have selective breeding, we have all these kind of things. And that's not just the meat industry, but the dairy and egg industry as well. So what cultured meat is about is basically taking the cells of these animals and producing the meats
Right.
in the lab. And so it needs a different kind of environment. It's kind of like creating a concoction
Right.
for drinking, but this one is actual meat. So it wouldn't be vegetarian per se, where we're
Right.
still debating it, because
Right.
it's not a plant culture, but
Right.
it is actually a meat
Meat
culture.
culture.
However, this also gives the opportunity for it, the connoisseurs to maybe even tweak it to make it like, if you want Wagyu marbled, then they can produce it directly in the lab, right? Or you want it just the lean sirloin or whatever, then that can be done as well. So it depends on where you're looking from. But the end of the day, the environmental footprint is way reduced compared to a traditional form of factory farming. So that's the whole idea.
So this is where I need some more convincing. I mean, just this, the whole idea and is it still being processed, right? Which I still like my vegetables as it is, or my meat as it is, right? And whether we're going through down that path of it being too processed, which is not a conversation for today, but that's just in my head. And if you, but I understand the need for consuming more vegetables and how that's better for the environment. Now, how do you go about advocating and changing policy?
Yeah, I think that's always a very big challenge, and I think it needs to be done systematically. And what we're trying to do is trying to create the environment of it. So the policies, the getting schools, institutions, hospitals, and all that to realize that it's important to make this transition, not just for health, but also for the environment.
Right.
And for the government, at the end of the day, I think the other thing that matters is the financial cost to it.
Right.
And if we can prove to the governments that it's going to be more beneficial in terms of cost, we can reduce costs in many ways, including health outcomes and all that, and increase productivity and all that, then we can have bigger strides to it. But of course, we also need the opportunity to be able to engage with all the stakeholders, be it the federal government or the state governments and the policymakers and all these stakeholders to engage and to understand, just to be open about it and to look into these options. Of course, it is a touchy thing because Malaysia is very known for their food culture and everybody loves food 24/7, right? And all the varieties. But we just need to be now more mindful and more conscious about trying to tweak our dietary habits a little bit for the sake of the environment and our health.
Right.
Yeah, so.
How are the youth engaged? Other than the challenge, the food challenge, how else do you get them involved?
So personally, what I do here in Malaysia is we go to universities and we engage with them, and I do try to engage with we started out with the food tech faculties and all that, but now all the universities also have sustainability and environmental departments and institutions. So we have been engaging with them, and they often have they even have courses and degrees on this. So we try to speak at those events and occasions, and I'm still trying to make my way around all the universities out there. But there are youth groups in universities who are also very interested in this topic as well, especially about the environment, about sustainability. So we try to engage with them as well and try to incorporate these ideas. And most of the time, they are willing to even try to at least make their events, like they have a retreat or a workshop for a few days. So they make their entire event plant-based. So all the foods that they have and all that. So it's an opportunity for them to try these things. And in Malaysia, surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, actually Malaysian traditional foods are very plant-based.
Right?
It's just that we forgot about it. And now we are putting everything with cheese and a lot of milk and all that. So, but traditionally it wasn't like that.
Right.
So we are just trying to like reverse back time, because that's what the Western and the developed countries are trying to do now, because they know that it has been a huge health problem, and not just the environmental part, but the health issues as well. And they are trying to go back to just eating more veggies and incorporating more of that, and
back to basics, really.
And reducing all this not so good stuff. So,
okay. You also have grants available?
ProVeg grants are at the moment, they are specifically designed to help and enable movements. So like you were saying earlier that how do we get people more involved and all that. So we do have grants available for NGOs or individuals who want to help to make a difference in terms of this transition of animal agriculture and all that. So there's a new initiative called Kickstarting for Good. That's just started last year, and there was a cohort. And so we're inviting people to look into or enabling them to create a bigger impact in their societies and the communities. And so they, for the selected recipients, they will be invited to Berlin and go through a crash course with other very established NGO leaders to help them along to how to make a bigger impact and all that. So that's one of the grants that we have. Apart from that, I am working with local governments and federal governments and banks even, and trying to look into ways how we can craft a way that we can help this transition going on as well. And I'm very pleased to see that Bank Negara recently had a grant on the agriculture industry as well. And I think we can also embed plant-based into that as well. So looking into collaborating with that more.
With all these corporations, when they have events and all that, say, look, it's vegetarian food only. You know what I mean? Like when they're organizing events, and that's one way of getting that message, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But we all like a rendang. Now, how can the public at large then join the movement? Stop having rendang.
You don't have to stop your rendang. That's the beauty of it. The cool thing is you can have rendang, but without the beef. That's all. So it's just about transitioning the protein source. So in how we do it nowadays in our family is that we always have mushroom rendang, tempeh rendang, and so forth, right? But it's also identifying and actually Malaysia has been known for vegetarian food for many, many years and many, many decades even. There are companies in Malaysia, vegetarian companies that's been around for decades, families and second generation, third generation. So we're known for that, and it's just now trying to come out of the darkness, kind of, so to speak. So if we can explore and try them, and actually we're using the same spices, the same style of cooking, and it will taste the same. It's just that the protein source is different. So if you have the right mushrooms, like the monkey head mushroom,
the
lion's mane mushroom. There's a few names of it. It tastes just like chicken. And feels like chicken,
but it's not.
But it's not chicken. But it is a mushroom. So so things like that will help. And as long as we know how to prepare it and have the right people preparing it and doing it nicely, so it's tasty and delicious, so people won't be deterred from trying it again. So
and we can source locally. Like lion's mane can be grown here, jackfruit can be grown here in abundance, and so these are the alternatives which taste just as good, right? we can go on about this, right? And, you've been watching the Shift Asia in-depth series, Malaysia International Food and Beverage Trade Fair, MIFB 2024. And of course, it was a pleasure bringing today's story, innovation and impact in the F&B sector. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Join us at the MIFB Trade Fair this July to see these sustainable practices in action and discover how you can be part of this exciting industry transformation.